Teaming up with the North Texas Food Bank to collect donations for families in need. For every canned good you donate during your service, we'll take $10 off your total, up to 10 cans. That's right, more cans mean bigger savings and a bigger impact for those in need. Scheduling is easy at callwellborngarage.com.
Open the door to quality and more. Wellborn Garage Doors.
DFW's breaking news, talk, traffic, and weather station. News Talk 820 WBAP. And now on FM at 93.3, a Cumulus media station.
Streaming live on our free mobile app.
Trending now.
Congress contemplates giving a medal to Daniel Penny. I'm Mike Trina from the WBAP 24/7 News Center.
ClassicChevrolet.com. WBAP's first traffic and weather.
On the ones.
75 northbound at Lover's Lane, the left lane blocked for a wreck. That's heavy. Back to Woodall Rogers. Loop 12 Walton Walker northbound on the Trinity River Bridge. You've got one in the left lane, and it's still heavy to 114. Grand Prairie, I-20 eastbound at the Bush Turnpike. A wreck blocks off the two left lanes. 183 westbound at Amon Carter. That crash in the right lane, slowing you back to the Bush Turnpike. With WBAP's first traffic on the ones, I'm Monty Cook.
Why do so many Texans love Classic Chevrolet and Grapevine? We're the #1 Chevy dealership in the world. New Silverados, more than anyone. Malibus, Blazers, Equinox. Gotta visit ClassicChevrolet.com. Together, let's drive. Based on new Chevrolet registrations 2023.
Your WBAP forecast tonight, mostly clear with a low around 39. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a high near 62. Tomorrow night, cloudy with a low right around 50. News brought to you by Classic Chevrolet. Some House Republicans are pushing for Daniel Penny to receive the Congressional Gold Medal.
Republican Congressman Eli Crane of Arizona says Daniel Penny's actions, quote, exemplify what it means to stand against the grain, to do right in a world that rewards moral cowardice, as he pushes a resolution to give now acquitted Marine veteran Daniel Penny the Congressional Gold Medal. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries responding.
We respect the jury's verdict, but we should not be celebrating what happened that day.
Jeffries says the U.S. needs to have a more compassionate, enlightened response when dealing with mental health challenges. Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
As the transition of political power approaches at the White House, Executive Director David Kramer of the Bush Institute shares their recommendations to the incoming administration.
We do it rooted in the principles that guide this institute, which are freedom, opportunity, accountability, compassion, principles that guided President and Mrs. Bush when they were in the White House and continue to guide them here today in Dallas.
The Institute's policy is shared with all new administrations, regardless of party affiliation. Your money news. Google today unleashed another wave of artificial intelligence designed to tackle more of the work and thinking done by humans. Google is framing its release of Gemini 2.0 as a springboard for AI agent built to interpret images shown through a smartphone, perform a variety of tedious chores, remember the conversations they have with people, and help video game players plot strategy. News also brought to you by Reliant Air Conditioning. Our next update within 30 minutes. Breaking news 24/7. Check back 3, 4, 5 times a day and keep connected, DFW, to News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
From the Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Sports Desk, sports from 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket.
The University of North Carolina is finalizing a deal to make Bill Belichick their next head coach. The most Super Bowl wins ever for an NFL coach. 72-year-old Belichick now trying his hand at the college ranks. The Board of Trustees still needs to approve the deal. Dirk Nowitzki closing in on a deal to become a part of Amazon Prime's broadcast of the NBA starting next season. And Hall of Fame wide receiver Randy Moss announcing that he has liver cancer. Moss recently stepped away from his analyst role at ESPN for health concerns. The 47-year-old over 15,000 receiving yards in his 14-year career. I'm Kevin Landrum, Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310, The Ticket.
Brought to you by Veteran Energy.
When I heard that I could help my fellow veterans with Veteran Energy, I knew this was the electricity company for me. Anyone can enjoy their competitive electricity rates while supporting our heroes. It's more than a company tagline. It's a commitment we honor each day. For more info, go to veteranenergyusa.com/WBAP.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Shop limited time deals on last minute gifts now at Lowe's. Save $50 on a Werner 6-foot aluminum step ladder. Plus get select Craftsman V20 tools bundles for only $39. Offers valid 12/5 through 12/11 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Thank you for listening today to News Talk 820 WBAP and now WBAP FM at 93.3.
Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you know two things about this show, number one is I love dispelling myths that are floating around out there that I'm tired of people saying. The other is I am not a big fan of the media. Now, one of the discussions I hear from people, especially when they're new to talk radio, is they're like, well, you know, my whole life I've just been kind of going with the flow, but here lately they've gotten so bad and the media's gotten so dishonest, and I like to just tap the brakes. Whoa. The media's always been this bad. You're just starting to notice. And the guy who does this topic even better than me is the great Evan Sayet. Because, Evan, I remember you did a speech about 10, maybe 12 years ago where you spelled out the media got the three biggest stories of your entire life wrong. Is it fair to ask you to summarize that in like a minute or two?
I'm not positive what the stories would be because there are 10 and 20 and 50
So
of them.
I think you did this at Heritage Foundation. It was the...
Actually, I did not. I did it at the Conservative Forum, which is now known as the Liberty Forum, and it was covered by C-SPAN, so anybody can just track it down on C-SPAN. But I pointed out that we were led back years ago, we were led to believe that Japan was an unstoppable economic juggernaut, when in reality they were plummeting into what is now a decades-long recession. All right, James, that's not just a little bit wrong. That is diametrically opposed to the truth. That is diametrically opposed to what is right.
And it was such a common trope in the early 90s that there was an episode of Seinfeld where Elaine's publishing house got bought out by the Chinese because it was just so common. They're taking over.
Oh, indeed. It was the conventional wisdom, and wisdom's not a word I use often when I talk about television shows, but it was the conventional wisdom back in the 80s and 90s that Japan was going to take over everything. Again, I didn't make up the phrase, unstoppable economic juggernaut is what the New York Times called them. And if you go back to the fall of the Soviet Union, right up until, remember how surprised and shocked we all were when the Soviet Union collapsed? Why were we so surprised?
Because we were told they were a co-equal superpower this whole time.
Indeed. So co-equal superpower to collapsing into non-existence is not just a little bit wrong. I mean, perhaps they didn't know the end result, but they could have supplied some clues along the way that the Soviet Union was on its way to being collapsed, but instead they continued to promote the notion that it was a co-equal superpower with the United States. I remember at the very beginning of the first Iraq War, the media swore that we were in a quagmire. And this was on the first couple of days. Well, when what came to be, when our troops then arrived in Baghdad, it was the culmination of the swiftest military victory of its kind in all of human history. Never had so much enemy territory, been traversed in so short a period of time. So quagmire and swiftest military victory of its kind is not a little bit off. It's diametrically opposed to the truth.
And you're talking about stories that happened 30 years ago. So people, if you think the media has changed or gotten worse, it's not. You've just started paying more attention. You've actually just probably started getting your information from better sources.
And I can tell you what it is that led to this, because it wasn't always true that it was diametrically opposed to the truth. There was a certain time along the way when the media went from biased to ideologically and intellectually corrupt. And that was along the way when it was taught in journalism school that we cannot be objective. See, it used to be your attempt, at least, was to be an objective reporter. Now, you had your biases and you had to satisfy your bosses, but nonetheless getting it completely wrong on major stories. And that's not just a one-day story. They had years to recognize Japan's economic shortcomings. They had years to recognize the Soviet Union's weaknesses. But what happened was suddenly they were told that human beings cannot be objective, journalists cannot be objective. So now you had to be neutral. Okay? And what's the difference between objectivity and neutrality? And by the way, you'll recognize, James, in neutrality is sort of indiscriminateness. The difference is, let's say you're a sports reporter, all right, and you're covering the New York Jets Cincinnati Bengals game, and the Jets win 56-3. All right, now obviously that's never really going to happen, but this is my story, and I can tell it anyway.
Total fantasy, but we get the point.
Well, if you're an objective reporter, your article is all about how the Jets played a better game, how their quarterback was more accurate, how the defensive scheme was outstanding. But now let's say you're not allowed to be objective. You have to be neutral. You have to believe that both teams are equally good. Now, what is your reporting about if the score comes out that way? How do you explain two equally good teams coming to such disparate outcomes? Well, very clearly the Jets must have cheated. Very clearly the referees must have been in on it.
Well, that sounds like systemic privilege then, if the referees are in on it.
Well, they were probably bought off, and who could have bought them off except the rich owners? And why would they buy off because the New York Jets are? You begin to make up a storyline that explains away failure and conceives of success, as you say, as privilege or cheating. So instantly your reporting becomes exactly the opposite of the truth. When you are required to be neutral but not objective, instantly your reporting goes from the Jets were a better team to the fact that the Bengals were victimized.
They were cheated. All right. Now, if you like this little taste, he has 3 books. Just start with the first one, Kindergarten of Eden, and then work your way up from there. Where do they get your book at these days, Evan?
And let me remind them, Christmas is coming up. They make great Christmas gifts, including a children's book teaching children why they should not be afraid of man-made global warming. All right, and they can get all my books at Amazon. I'm going to send them just straight to Amazon.com.
Fantastic. Evan Sayet, I appreciate your expertise on the James Show. I love your brain and the way it works. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right. Now I'm going to add to the foundation that Evan Sayet just built in the next segment, because I have a list of the top 20 news stories of 2013. And he just, that media is god-awful now. They're absolute dog water right now. Evan just spelled out how 30, 40 years ago they were terrible. I'm going to show you how about 10, 11 years ago they were absolutely terrible. Their record of success and being correct in these huge stories is awful. You wouldn't allow these people to teach a 5th grade math class if they got this much stuff wrong. No, the media didn't all of a sudden get bad. It's not that MSNBC fell off the tracks or CNN used to be balanced and then they just got so partisan. They've always been this bad. And so he was spelling out how they were getting everything wrong when we were kids. You know, they were telling you whether it was Rocky IV or Red Dawn, that the Russians, they were co-equal superpowers. No, they were really 3 months from not existing anymore and not being even able to hold on to the Ukraine. But look, there is no break from it. If you want to go in the times before that, I can show you articles where Walter Duranty at the New York Times was writing apologetic stuff about Hitler and how he's such a nice guy now that he got out of prison. He was saying nice things about the Stalin regime. It's really terrible. But look, let's do an intermediate rollout, because I was on talk radio in 2013, and it was about this time of year. And at the end of the year, there's a few hack topics that are always fun to do. And one of them is, well, what are the top news stories of the year? And so I remember I made notes. I have them from pretty much every year. So I went and pulled my notes from 2013. And I wanted to show you how even then the news was getting everything wrong. The number one news story of 2013, the Obamacare rollout. They were telling you this is going to be great. They've had 3 years to set up this website. And of course, we anticipate some speed bumps or whatever, but we're all looking forward and optimistic. And they were doing the reporting like this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know how many people got signed up the first day the Obamacare website was turned on? This isn't a joke. I'm not exaggerating to make a point. This is the literal number. It is 6. 6 people. Number 2, the Benghazi attack. You were told that it was because some people got upset at a YouTube video and a spontaneous protest popped up that got a little out of hand. They just so happened to have some RPGs and small arms fire with them. But, other than that, totally spontaneous, not a planned terror attack. And the fact that it was on September 11th is just a coincidence. You found out all of that was lies. The number 3 story of 2013, the IRS targeting conservative groups. You were told. Lois Lerner even went to Congress and was like, no, we certainly don't do that. They had to eat all their words after lying to you about it for an entire year. Number 4, the debt ceiling government shutdown. This was the sequestration battle. You were told that if we curtailed future spending by 3%, on the baseline, not even a spending cut, just instead of increasing spending by 6%, if we only increase it by 3%, we were told all kinds of calamity would happen. It would collapse the economy. Did the economy collapse in 2013 or 2014? No, it didn't. All of that reporting was a lie. Where they lied to you about the NSA's not spying on us domestically, Edward Snowden disproved that in 2013. The Boston Marathon bombing. If I go back and play the montages of the first day of reporting, they're like, well, this is very likely has the hallmarks of a right-wing terror attack, until we found out who it was. Gun legislation debate, the Iran nuke threat. That was the number 9 story of 2013. You were told then they're 9 months away from getting the nuclear bomb. Here it is, 11 years later, still don't have the nuclear bomb. Oh no, the media has not gotten worse. The media's always been this bad. You've just gotten smarter. 800-288-9227 if you want to. Oh, what am I doing this? The show's almost over. I'm just doing that out of habit. Well, dang it, I'm out of time for the James Show. Look, for all the people who already emailed in, they're like, yeah, I would like to go on Tuesday. Fine. Y'all are going to email in after I throw a hissy fit, but you didn't email in the first time I asked. I'll do it again. If I get 20 emails of people saying they can go to Richardson Bar and Grill on Tuesday, December 17th, that's just coming Tuesday, like 6 days from now at 7 p.m., I'll do it. It's not an official station event. I'm not going to run promos, but I'm not going to run a charity event. Let me know, james@wbap.com, or find me on Facebook and send me a message. Say, yes, I definitely would go, and make it worth your while. Thank you. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah. Happy Wednesday. Oh, my God. So much going on. I didn't even know about this drone thing until about right after the James Show last night. And then it's really starting to take over the news cycle here. And it's primarily because we have just no answers so far. And I think it's kind of fun. Really, I think this is going to end up being something harmless. But right parallel to that, the other top news story of the day is we're learning a lot about Luigi Mangione, the guy that's been charged now with the murder of the United Healthcare CEO. Let's talk about it with my first guest, former Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale, back on the James Show. Welcome back, Joe. This whole Luigi situation, there's a lot of skepticism to this, and rightly so. What do you think about it?
I mean, they can have all the skepticism they want, but it's a solid case as far as the timeline and everything. We just there's so many questions that need to be answered, though. I don't know if that manifest in its entirety will show what his true intentions were. I mean, I have my own take on it. My thing is, you leave New York. He was gone that day. Everybody thinks it was like, oh, why couldn't they jump on it right away? They should have known he was going to the bus terminal. They didn't know anything until 3 days later, by piecing this together. So that being said, he was in Altoona for 3 or 4 days, all right? Why bring everything with you? Why bring the weapon? Why bring the suppressor? Why bring your manifest and, go along the same thing, and then put in the manifest that apologizing and saying that these parasites had it coming? Well, to my knowledge, he killed one person, all right? Why the plural on that? Was he trying to set something up for another kill someplace to make it plural parasites? We don't know. Hopefully we can get a rhyme or reason to it later on. But he'll fight extradition to an extent. But during that time, the NYPD will still continue to build their case on what they already have and go beyond that now that they can delve into his knowing who he is, into his social media. But I just hope that it goes federally and gets, prosecuted federally, because I have no faith in Alan Bragg bringing this to a successful conclusion the way anybody would want.
Oh, well, Alan Bragg, such an accomplished prosecutor. How dare you, Joe Cardinale?
Yeah.
So like one of the paradoxes we have on this guy is, did he want to get caught or not? Because if you want to get caught, why run in the first place? Why not just turn yourself in like Kevin Spacey in Seven? If you don't want to get caught, then why are you running around with all the evidence tying you to the crime? And you probably have a better ability to come up with the hypotheticals on that. What do you think?
Well, this guy here, he's what do you call it? He's a braggart, right? He definitely is a braggart. He's cocky. All right, and he's out there, and you could see his demeanor when he was being brought into the courthouse. And now he's, using that stage to show everybody, look what I did, this and that. But really, if you look at him from the time when he's everything they have, from being valedictorian to the time he falls, he goes off the radar for a little while, and then during that time goes off the rails. All right. They're blaming it on back surgery, the whole 9 yards. He comes from a, very wealthy family and everything. So where did this go wrong? Well, I don't know. Anybody these days can find that it's very easy to get radicalized. And the proof of the pudding for that is, look at the people that are supporting him with T-shirts and everything else, and they're like siding with him over the big giant of health insurance.
I said that out loud yesterday, and I felt embarrassed, because when I talk about the plot line of a really handsome guy disappearing off the radar for a few days, getting brainwashed, coming back and doing a planned assassination, that's the plot of Zoolander.
Yeah. You look at it, you don't know where this guy's mind is at for these things. People ask me all the time. I've done so many cases over the years, and gave my opinion on so many cases. And people have always asked me the one thing: what makes somebody do this? And the only thing I could tell everybody is, when that switch goes off, it goes off. All right, and that's it. I mean, you look at Lacey Peterson case, the same thing. What makes a father kill the mother and the unborn child? It's when the switch goes off and somebody's determined to do something, they're going to do it. That's just a description of pure evil. All right, and you're going to come across these cases. Right now, they have somebody that is pure evil. All right, he just executed somebody on national television because they put everything out there for everybody to see. All right, and I don't see any remorse in him whatsoever, other than saying his little pathetic apology that he wrote in that manifest. So, this is the day and age we live in, and I really think that we really need to step up to the plate with things and start identifying some of these people that are going off the rails, if we can, through social media. Let them change the logarithms where, the police departments do get notified on something like this that could possibly be happening. All right, but right now, all the crazies out there have just made healthcare executives their number one target.
Yeah, and a lot of our neighbors' response to this is leave me with a bad taste in my mouth. We're learning a lot about our neighbors. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, Joe Cardinale.
Anytime, my friend. You take care.
I'm going to ask you the exact same questions. Why would a guy who's trying to get away keep all this evidence to himself? Is he a patsy? And was he supposed to return the gun and the fake ID and the silencer or whatever to whomever supplied it to him? And he just got tripped up along the way? Was he just trying to stretch the story out so it would get noticed, knowing he'd eventually be caught anyway? He just wanted to get some extra headlines while he's at it? Is he working for someone? Is he really working for himself? Did he want to get caught or not? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll give you my 2 cents coming up in about 4 minutes on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, back to the first big topic of the day. Don't worry, I'll get to the drones next, but we got to finish what the heck is going on with this Luigi character, because, all right, there's some obvious logical paradoxes here, and of course, the guy appears to be a sociopath, so maybe logic just really isn't in the cards. But there's the paradox here of, was he trying to get caught or not? And these guys like to at least get credit for their work, if not get caught. On a long enough time scale, all of them are revealed. And the thing Joe Cardinale was bringing up is that's just something that comes with being a psychopath. You got to brag about your work. You got to brag about how smart you are to get away with it. That's sort of, I don't know, maybe sociopath, probably psychopath if you're willing to kill like that coldly, because that's what you saw in the video. You're like, either this is a pro or a psychopath, or maybe a little bit of both. But the questions that come up are obviously, if you did want to get caught, then why not just go turn yourself in? If you didn't want to get caught, why are you keeping all this evidence on you? And I had a guy email me last night, and he said, what about this, Parker? I know this sounds a little conspiracy theory-ish, but what if someone supplied him with the gun, and someone supplied him with the silencer, someone supplied him with the fake ID, so he could go get the job done. Now, he's not working alone, and he's going to come back to meet this guy, this handler, and what? Maybe return the gun to him? Maybe return the fake ID and the silencer so they could get rid of it for him properly? Or, I don't know, that kind of makes sense. It could. I'm not saying that's the likely scenario, but we don't know enough to argue against this stuff, do we? All right, let's go to Crystal in Arlington. And what do you think? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Crystal in Arlington, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hi, I just have a question, really.
Sure.
With Penny, and I think he's a hero personally.
Okay.
Because he protected people. He saw a threat. He took care of it, and I totally respect that. On another leg of that, let's say Luigi feels the same way. He saw a threat. He took action. So morally, I know we have laws, and I'm all about that. But morally, what is the difference?
Well, because the Brian Thompson, the United Health CEO, wasn't actively threatening anybody.
Well, you know, if you read the stories and all the millions of people who've been denied claims and therefore died, you could argue.
Yeah, so then that brings into a case is, you know, what's the difference between like an active threat and a passive threat? And then you've also got to establish the moral ground that denying a claim is the same as murdering somebody or, you know, seriously harming them. And then you also got to...
Well, it's due to corruption and not just you know,
right?
There's intricacies in this.
I think we all get what you're saying. I'm just explaining to the people listening to you and me chatting right now, Crystal, that the other moral layers that are on top of this, because if you do go through that rabbit hole and you start assessing, okay, well, denying a claim is the same as killing somebody, is the same is akin to murder. Then you say, well, who made the claims process in such a way? Did the insurance company do that, or is the insurance company following the very tight, long, voluminous 70,000 pages of regulation that the government makes it play within? And so then the originating offender that came up with this system that, morally speaking, murders people by denying claims, then the onus isn't really on the CEO himself. He is just the utility. He is just the tool of the failed government regulations that force insurance to act like this. Because insurance isn't even the word for what we have now. We're not all
tools, but we're all tools, but we don't all deny people.
Well, I know, but then you're still leaving out the part where maybe you and me have a little bit of culpability in this, Crystal, because just because somebody gets denied for a treatment by their insurance company doesn't mean they just are thrown in the gutter to die. They could pay for it themselves. They could pay for it with...
Sometimes there's just suffering.
I know. Well, sometimes there is, but sometimes you could pay for it with private voluntary donation. Sometimes you could pay for it with charity, whether it comes from a religious or secular group. Sometimes maybe we need to look around and say, if there's people that the insurance company is leaving to suffer, is there something we can do with our own private charity to alleviate this before we start murdering CEOs in the street? Absolutely.
It's just a question that's out there because a lot of people are talking about it, and that's where they're coming from.
Well, look, there's a sort of anti-Christian feeling that a lot of us get about this, where when we see some of our neighbors in our own society suffering, we're like, it's the government's fault. They should do something about it. We should have a program, or it's the CEO of this healthcare company, or it's the healthcare company or the health insurance company itself. Maybe we should do something about it. Maybe if people are dying because they're not having enough resources put toward their healthcare, we could be doing something about it. We are not doing, and maybe we're probably just as culpable as Brian Thompson ever was, if not more.
Not as culpable because we're not doing insider trading as well.
Oh, insider trading now. Insider trading now. Great discussion to have, though, Crystal. Great discussion. You sound like quite a few of my friends. So thank you very much. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Joel Griffith from the Heritage Foundation. The CPI, the inflation reports are in. Inflation's still burning through your cash. How bad is it? You'll find out next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.